everybody, this is Jeremiah at Reed Racing. In the last video, we put the fuel cell in the car. In this video, we're going to finally tear down the motor from last year so we can get the parts ordered that we need to rebuild it for this year. We're going to put all the internals in a different block. That way we can get this block bored and honed out, and then we'll eventually build a second motor. So, I'm going to kind of explain what I'm doing as I'm taking the motor apart. I'll probably wear the headpiece. That way you guys can get a closer shot of what's going on. Otherwise, you just kind of sit on the bench and you can't always see what's going on. So, as always, if you guys learn anything in this video, or you want to follow along with our build or our racing, which is coming up in about 2.5–3 weeks, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below, and we'll get started with the video. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is make sure all the fluids are out. We've drained the water and stuff out of it before we even took it out of the car, but we're going to drain the oil out of it and everything, just to make sure that when we start flipping this thing over, that it's not going to go all over the place. So while that's draining, I'm going to go ahead and take this starter off. Alright, now that we got the oil drained all over the floor, so just to make sure that we got all the water out, while it's on its side, like this, and I finished taking this water plug out. Yep, we got all the water out. So we're just going to put that guy back in there. You can take the plug out of this side to make sure too, but if it all came out to one side, I know it all came out the other because I did them both at the same time. So the next thing we're going to do is take the fan, pulleys, water pump, crank pulley off, all that, just basically to clear off the front of the motor. So these bolts here are 1/2 inch. These bolts hold both the fan and the pulley onto the water pump. And all the water should be out of here. So next we're going to take off the water pump. To do that, all we're going to have to do is take off these two and these two bolts. Just going to pull up on it. I'll pop it off. Eventually we'll have to clean these gaskets and stuff off. But so next we're going to pull this crank pulley off. So we're going to take off these 3 outer bolts. Our 9/16, just like the water pump. Then we're going to have to get one big enough for that, which is probably going to take our 1/2 inch impact. So that bolt's a 3/4. A lot of your GM ones are a 5/8 bolt. A 5/8 head, I should say. So we got to press this pulley off. Just going to take this. Just like that. We can pull the valve covers off now, but because there's dirt and stuff in here, I'm going to pull the distributor out first, then pull the valve covers off, and then I'll pull the intake off. So the distributor, it's good to have a distributor wrench, especially when you have the motor in the car, because you can't really get back to the distributor nut most of the time. The distributor wrench kind of comes down at an angle, so you can sit here and turn it out here. Not necessary, but it does come in handy. Just take those off, and then this will just kind of turn it back as you pull it up. And the reason you have to turn it back is because of the angle of these gears. If you try and pull straight up, it's going to turn on its own anyway. So as you pull it out, kind of turn it a little bit this way, it'll make it easier to come out. Then So that's how that goes on there when you get the distributor on. This basically just locks it down, and then that just holds everything down. So the next thing we're going to do is pull the intake off. We got 8 Allen head bolts basically on the corners, and then you got 4 hex head bolts in the middle. We're going to pull from outside in, just so there's less likely of a chance of warping anything. So I got to get that, and then we'll get started. Now I'm taking this apart with my 3/8 impact. It doesn't really have a lot of torque on it, so I'm not too worried about, especially taking apart things with this, that it's going to do any damage. Putting things back together, certain things I'll put together with this, but some things I'll tighten down my hand. Now, if you're wondering why I have 2 different valve covers on here, one of my crew guys cracked one of these, tightened it down. Don't ask me how, because he was tightening it by hand, but he cracked it, and so since then we've had 2 different ones, even though I have both sides. I think the one for the other side is broken. So that was the way it was. I got some new ones to put on the new motor, so maybe a little match this year. I want to try and pull it up with that, but it's probably a good thing that wasn't able to pull it off. That means it's got a good seal. So we're just gonna lightly pry on the corners. Until we get it worked loose. There we go. So the next thing we're gonna take off is these valve covers. So just 7/16 bolts. I put long bolts up top and short ones down below. If I had all long ones, I'd use all long ones. But because the intake's normally here, it's harder to get down to the short bolt, so I put the long ones up top. Oop. That would not have been good. I mean, we're tearing it apart, but now on the dirt track cars, because the cars lean over so much in the corner, basically this is how the motor's going to sit looking at the car right now. Because we lean over to the right so much, a lot of oil goes to the right side of the motor. That's why I run a splash shield over here, but not over here, because this valve cover pretty much is going to fill up with oil anyway. Where this one, it kind of gets oil starved. So the oil shoots out of here through the push rods. So what this does is it makes it splash back down right onto the rocker stud. So that way, which there's a little ball in there, that way that gets oil. A couple races that I didn't run this, I actually had to replace a couple of the balls in here. They're underneath these nuts because they got oil starved and swelled up and stuck and broke some rocker studs. So I've always run a splash shield since then. I suppose I should drain the oil out of the filter before I get too far. Next, we're going to take this fuel pump off. Now, when you're doing these, you got to be careful. There's a little rod in here that you don't lose that rod. These are little 5/16 bolts that hold the stud on. Damn it. That's what I didn't want to do. Make sure we didn't ding it up. Clean it up. See if it slides back through the hole real easy. Yep. So basically this rides on the cam, and as the cam spins, it sits there and oscillates back and forth, gets pushed back and forth. And what that does is it pushes on this, which pushes this up and down to pump that fuel through. That's how a mechanical pump works. Next, we're going to take these motor mounts off. 9/16 head bolt. So this side had a bolt break off in there. That's why it only had 2 holding it in. So we'll pick up in the next video where we left off today. We got to take the push rods and lifters out, then we got to take the heads off. And then once we get it down to a short block, Brianna actually finally joins us for a video. She helps finish take the motor apart. So make sure you guys stay tuned for those. The next video will probably come out Saturday morning or Sunday morning, which will include my pick for this weekend's NASCAR race, as long as it doesn't get shut down from the coronavirus. And then on probably Tuesday or Wednesday of next week, I'll release the video, and that one will probably be where Brianna's helping us take the rest of the motor apart, and then we'll see where we go from there. We got racing come up in just a few weeks. I'll probably do a video running through our schedule, probably end of next week, and then we got to put a body on still. We got to put the wrap on. We're getting that ordered. So as always, if you want to follow along with the rest of this build or our racing that's coming up really soon now, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like. And then make sure to check out our Facebook and Instagram. And then check out all our partner links. They're all in the description down below. And with that, we'll see you in the next video.